Hey everyone, just jumping on here live today, spit my words out if I can. I'm talking about one of my favorite topics today, and it's come up a few times in this group already, which is great, and people have questions about it, and I want to come on here and hopefully answer those questions and just clear up some myths and misunderstandings about this very important topic, which is to do with strength training, and specifically why strength training is your ultimate weapon for battling peri and menopausal weight gain. And I'm going to go into the why of that, like why is it so important at this time of our life to be strength training? What does it do for our bodies? And also the hows and the whats, right? So I think, a lot of us will know that it is important and that we should be doing it, but how do we actually incorporate it into our lives? I think sometimes it can feel a little bit intimidating, a bit confusing, and if you're not already doing it, it might be put in the too hard basket at the moment. And I just want to go through some really simple ways that you can incorporate it into your life if you're not already. And for those of you who are already weight training, it might just be validation for what you're already doing, but why it's important, the particular sort of benefits for over 40s women, for peri and menopausal women, why it's important, and how you can get the most out of it, how you can really make sure that what you're doing is going to be the most effective and the most beneficial for this time of your life. So I'd love to ask a favor. If you're watching live, let me know that you're here. Just, if you're on your phone, just give it a like or a love so other people can see that you are, that I'm on live, and that they should join us and join us live and watch at the same time, or put a comment in if you have a chance to type in and put a comment. That'd be great too. Same thing if you're watching the replay, just so I know who's seen it, and also the usual deal, like if you watch the replay and you have questions, put it in there. I'll always come back in over the coming, the days afterwards and see if anyone has any questions that I haven't addressed in the video or in the comments. So both of those things would be super helpful if you can do that. So starting out, I wanted to, it's just funny. I mean, obviously Facebook can read our minds just about, but I was just going through, I was scrolling this morning and I was shown a video, an interview actually from the Today Show from just 5 days ago. And the woman on there was a 65-year-old woman who has been bodybuilding for, she's been going into bodybuilding competitions, bikini, fitness model competitions, for the past sort of 25 years, or she said she started weight training at age 40. And so her name's Jan Herdman. She, she was kind of this picture of health. Like, she looked incredibly fit, vibrant, healthy, and, looked sort of 10 or 15 years younger than she was. And, she started weight training, she said, at age 40 after a particularly nasty marriage breakup, as a way of kind of channeling that anger or that, those emotions into something positive. And, she just then turned to doing these competitions and has been doing them ever since. So it looks amazing. And I think, I wrote down something that she said, or she kind of summed up the why perfectly in these 3 sentences. So I thought, I'm just going to quote her because she really summed up, why it's so beneficial for us to be doing strength training. So I'm going to read that out. So she said, we've been told, particularly menopausal women, that we age and we can't do anything about it. And well, I say that's absolute rubbish. Then she said, weight training has been proven to strengthen bones, muscle, increase metabolism, it's cancer fighting and it's dementia fighting, all of which are 100% true. And everyone, this is what I really love, this part here. Take notes on this one if you want, put it up on your wall. Everyone is looking for the magical pill to make us younger and feel better and to keep us out of aged care. And it's called weight training. And I just thought that was just so perfect and such a perfect summation of just how powerful it is for this age, particularly over 40. Like, amazing. If you started weight training when you were 20, then well done. Like, you've just got such a great head start. If you haven't and you're 40 or 45 or 50 or whatever, it's still going to have massive benefits by starting now. So it's not too late to start. I mean, I'm so stoked that my, teenage daughters they are weight training. They're in the gym, they're doing strength training, and they've got this kind of message to the younger generation now, and hopefully they keep doing that for the rest of their lives, because they're going to be in incredible, health and condition, in their 40s and 50s and 60s. But it's not too late for us to start now, and there are massive benefits to doing it. So, at the end of that, I was just watching that video. I was just like, holy crap, like, a freaking man, you've just kind of summed up everything that is amazing about strength training in 3 sentences. So a lot of you watching here today will already be strength training, so amazing. But many of you won't be. And maybe I would love to know if you're not currently doing any sort of strength training, resistance training, why that is, because, and not from a judgment point of view, just from a curiosity point of view, because I always am curious to know. I think for our generation, we weren't brought up with strength training being kind of the number one thing that we should be doing for our health. It was more of cardio, cardio focus. So, it might be something that you've got sort of preconceived ideas about, like whether it's, you don't want to look too bulky. I know that's a big one that I hear a lot. Don't want to look like a man. Let me just take that one off the table straight away. We don't have enough testosterone as women to get too bulky without kind of help from steroids. So unless you're taking anabolic steroids, I think we're good on that point. So let's just lay that one out there right now. But for other people, it's, I don't know where to start. Hadn't realized maybe how important it was and the benefits that there are, and hopefully this next kind of 20 minutes will help you with that. Or maybe it's just intimidating. We don't feel like it's you. Maybe you kind of, like a lot of us got brought up doing cardio or yoga or, things like that, and that weight training just doesn't feel like it's not something you've done before. So it feels a bit uncomfortable and intimidating. But I would really love to know, if you're not, why that is. So, I think as much as I would like to, I'm not really here to convince you to do weight training. I think I'm just going to lay out the facts, let them speak for themselves, and hopefully that's such a compelling argument that it's a no-brainer, that at the end of this 15 minutes, you're like, okay, I'm going to start right now. I'm just going to do some squats in my lunch break. So look, let's start with firstly why, because I think it's helpful to know why should I spend my time? I've got limited time, I'm busy. I want to make sure I'm doing this for the right reasons and that it's going to be worth my while. And why after 40 specifically is it even more important to be doing this? So I think just as a quick why after 40, I mean, as I'm sure you'll all know, because you've lived it, after 40 or during that perimenopausal period, some of us it's before 40, right? So that our hormones start to decline. So there's a bit of a chaotic hormonal period where they're up and they're down, but generally speaking, they're declining. So our sex hormones I've talked about here, so estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, and those hormones are really important in in terms of our ability to build lean muscle mass. So they're declining through perimenopause. Then at menopause, they fall off a cliff and they're bottom out in postmenopausally. And that makes it really difficult for our body to make muscle. So if we do nothing, we know for a fact that decade on decade, our muscle mass is going to decline. And, I think I don't know the exact specifics around them, don't have that information in front of me, but the percentage of muscle mass we lose kind of in our 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s is quite scary. That if you're doing nothing, as in not eating enough protein, not strength training, you're going to be a frail old lady at 70. That's almost a fact. Added to that, during this period, 2 other hormones, cortisol and insulin, which are often elevated through this, perimenopausal, menopausal period, they negatively impact muscle growth. So we've got this negatively impact muscle growth. Sorry, I'm swallowing my words. So we've got this double whammy here. So whereas premenopausally, we might have kind of naturally, a lot of you might find this, so we didn't really have to think about it. We just kind of had some muscle, might not have been visible, guns or anything like that, but we had some muscle. We naturally were able to create muscle and retain muscle at least with sort of minimal effort. But now we're battling to retain it, let alone build it. So let's start with or go back to, why do we even care? Why should I care if I've got muscle or not? What does it even do for me? we'll leave aside for a second like the enormous health benefits that it gives us. So, you know, as I spoke about earlier on, it strengthens our bones. So it really does decrease the risk of osteoporosis and an osteoporotic fracture. And our risk for that fracture is massively increases just by being a woman as we age. So through, you know, in our 60s and 70s, I heard some crazy scary stat the other day. I read it, that I think it's 50% of women, and I don't remember if it's maybe 70, let me come back to you on the stats, but needless to say, it's about 50% of women will have an osteoporotic, a preventable fracture in their 70s or by 70, right? So we really want to make sure that we reduce that risk massively. Building muscle is going to help strengthen our bones. And it also is very good evidence to show it's protective against cancer and dementia, just having muscle mass. So there's two great health reasons. But putting aside the health reasons, we're talking at the moment about, you know, why is it important to prevent weight gain and help fat loss? Muscle is more metabolically active than fat. So meaning that muscle burns calories at rest, fat doesn't, or, you know, negligible. So the more muscle we have, the higher our metabolism is. So the higher our metabolic rate, the more calories we're using just at rest, doing nothing. And so I spoke last week in last week's live about that sort of finely tuned balance in energy balance, and how that kind of shifts through this perimenopausal period where we're, you know, burning, you know, a couple of hundred calories, maybe fewer a day. And even if we're eating like 100 or 200 calories extra, like doesn't take much for that energy balance to shift. And we're starting to put on, you know, a few hundred grams a week, even potentially. And so this really fights against that or mitigates against that metabolic change. So having more muscle is beneficial from a metabolic point, from a calories burning point of view, metabolic point of view. So that's really important too. Our body's preference, right, at this age and this stage is to store body fat. And there's some of you will have noticed this just on, you know, in your own shape changing. And a lot of the, one of the really common symptoms or complaints through menopause is around the menopausal belly, that we have this tendency to store fat around our midsection. And that is visceral fat. That's that dangerous fat that we don't want there. That is, you know, it's not good. It's around our organs. So it's really dangerous, and it's very bad for our health generally. And so there's a few, the more I've researched, the more I'm like, we need more research on this. But there are a few kind of solid theories around why that might be. And one of them is to do with that our estrogen stores are declining, and fat produces estrogen. So that as our estrogen is declining, there's this message being sent to our brain that, hang on, we need more estrogen. If we create some more body fat, if we put some more body fat down, that'll create some more estrogen. That'll bring some estrogen levels up. So that's one of the theories around it. Look, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But I think that regardless of why that's happening, we know that it definitely is happening. And then strengthening, building more muscle and is going to help guard against that fat storing tendency of our body at this point. So whatever we can do to fight against that, then, you know, that's going to be our sort of weapon of choice against that visceral fat. So I think, you know, the strength training and the protein side of things. And if you want to know more about protein, go back and listen to my live from last week where I talked about the importance of, was it last week? I think so. Anyway, there was one about diets and the importance of eating enough protein, right? Why that is so important. So we really need to send this very clear signal to our body, to our brain, that we want to put on muscle and not body fat. And we do that by strength training, and we do that by eating enough protein. Those two things are really very key in that process. So let me chat a little bit now. Now, if you have any questions, please let me know as you go. Hey, Beck, thanks for watching. Any questions, let me know in the comments as you're going. With anything that I've talked about so far. Even if you're watching the replay, I'll come back and answer those as well. So let's have a quick chat now about the how. So, you know, okay, strength training, but at the moment it might feel like this kind of abstract idea, and enough protein. So those two things are really important. I had a really great question from my live last week or the week before about strength training specifically, and whether, and this was a really good question because I think a lot of people will want to know this, is body weight training enough? Like, what actually is classified as strength training? Do I need to go and lift really heavy weights? Do I need to be a bodybuilder? What is strength training? Like, how am I going to get the benefits from this? And so let me talk about that for a moment. Firstly, it's all relative. So I think the good thing to know is it's relative. Like, how hard is hard? Well, for one person, body weight squats are going to be hard. For another person, they're going to be able to squat, their body weight or twice their body weight, right, with weight. So it's relative. How we work out whether it's challenging enough. So I'm sure a lot of you guys are old enough to remember the days of like the 80s, the 90s, like aerobics on TV where they're using these little like 0.5 kilo and 1 kilo dumbbells, and we're doing our aerobics with the dumbbells. We're doing like our step aerobics and stuff like that. So let's think about it this way. So when you're doing your strength training, so let's just talk about the basics, for example, squats, lunges, deadlifts, shoulder presses. There's all sorts of bicep curls, all sorts of things obviously we can do from a strength training programming perspective. So if you think about doing 10 to 15 reps of that exercise, so let's take squats, I'm doing 10 to 15 squats. Is it challenge aerobics Oz style? You know what just as a little aside, that was Jenny. Yes, I watched that religiously in uni to the point where my nickname was aerobics Oz style Amy. So that's how sad that was. I did like every morning before I went to uni. Anyway, I digress. So yes, aerobics Oz style, massive thing. So now we want to think about 10 to 15 reps. Is it challenging with the weight that I'm using, right? So if I'm doing squats, if I get to 15 squats and I could do another 15 with those weights or my body weight, then it's probably not challenging enough. Okay, so that's, I feel like, a really good simple rule of thumb. Now there's a couple of variables on this. If you're injured, if your technique is not great, or if you're a beginner and you're not sure if you're doing the right technique, you definitely do not want to load up something like a movement that's already a little bit dodgy, or that, you've got sore knees and even doing body weight squats is painful. So there are obviously nuances and variables to how heavy is heavy enough. But if you're, healthy body, your weights, your form is good, so that's really important. So if you're not sure, get a trainer, or just go and see someone and make sure that your form is good, and then we can start to increase the weight on those things. So back to the body weight question, there are, and I answered this in the comment on that question, but I just want to address it here too. There are lots of exercises that you can do body weight for the rest of your life that are always going to be challenging with body weight. So things like push-ups, chin-ups, pull-ups, dips on a bar or a bench, planks, sit-ups. So there are a lot of things where you may never need to add weight to that for it to be challenging, for you to get to that 10 to 15 reps, and then it's challenging. There are also other ways to make it more challenging. So for example, say you don't have access to weights at the moment, or you're injured, or whatever reason you can't use weights at the moment, there are other ways to make those reps more challenging without adding extra weights. So let's take the squat, for example. You could do a body weight squat, come up halfway, squat back down, then come all the way up. You can slow the squat right down so it feels more challenging, and you're feeling your muscles having to really work to keep your form and hold on to that position. So there are ways to make it more challenging without weights. But if we just come back to that rule of thumb, that 10 to 15 reps, is that challenging you? Is it, could you get to the 15 and go, I probably can't get any more out, or maybe you could squeeze 1 or 2 more out? Then that's going to be a good gauge and a good rule of thumb for, is it heavy enough? And then obviously the goal is to increase your strength and your weights over time, so that, we call it progressive overload. So over time, you're getting stronger and you're pushing that boundary, that envelope a little bit every time you can. It may not be every week. It might be every month. It might be every 2 months. It depends how long you've been training for, really. There's exercises that I do that I have not progressed on in a long time because they use really small muscles. So you think about things like lat raises, where you're just lifting your arm up like that, or reverse flies, and smaller muscle shoulders and things like that, or your lats, front raises. There are certain exercises that are going to be really tricky, and you may never or you may be very, very slow to progress to the next weight, but there are others that you might get stronger on more quickly. Things like squats, lunges, deadlifts, the bigger muscle groups. You might be able to increase your weight more quickly over time. The other little pro tip that I want to give you is to decrease your rest between sets. That can also help from a muscle building point of view. One of my favorite ways of programming training and strength training is called supersets, where you've got 2 different exercises, or maybe even 3, and they're working different muscle groups, and you're going back and forth between those exercises. So one muscle group's getting rest while the other's working, and that can promote muscle growth as well. So just take 2 basics, like maybe squats and shoulder press. So using your legs for squats and then your arms and shoulders for shoulder press. So that sort of thing can be really beneficial, just as a little aside, in terms of how you program. If you're not going to a trainer or a class or whatever, if you're thinking about just starting on your own, then that's a really good way to do it. And just pick the basics as well. There are so many influencers out there doing these complicated, complex moves. I say to my clients all the time, there are about 12 or 15 really foundational movements that you can just keep doing till the end of time, getting stronger on them, increasing your weights or increasing your form or your technique. And that is going to be more than enough to get the benefits of this strength training, right? So if you want me to, I can comment on the video if you want me to actually kind of list out, all right, what should I be doing, like exactly what, and I can probably put something together pretty easily with that too. But I think that pretty much covers it. So we've got the why, we've got the how. Like, I really implore you, if you're not already strength training, start with basics. I tell people who are just starting out to do some squats in the lounge room, or squats, you're waiting for the kettle to boil. Do some squats, sit onto a chair if you need the extra support to start with. Do some push-ups against your kitchen bench, whatever. Like, just take away that barrier to entry. Make it as easy as possible to just start, and you'll find that if you just are consistent with it, that you will get stronger over time. You'll start to see the benefits of that strength training. And I think the beautiful thing about strength training is we get almost immediate benefits from it in terms of the metabolic point of view, and the getting stronger and the seeing muscles and all that sort of thing. But also the long-term benefits, like the compound interest on strength training, is just immeasurable. Like, the benefits we'll get by doing strength training in our 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, when we're in that sort of 70s, 80s age bracket, and not needing to, have full-time care, not falling down and breaking our hip. That is the ultimate payoff. But we're also getting those immediate benefits as well. Or one last thing I really love about strength training, this has got nothing to do with weight gain or, fat loss, but it's just so, and, this woman, that going back to the lady that I spoke about at the very start, Jan, this 65-year-old bodybuilder, so empowering. It's one of those things where it builds your confidence just by doing it. And it's everyone has the ability, just about everyone, let's say, just about everyone has the ability to do weight training. There's no one, you don't have to have any specific skills or talent or anything like that. Everyone can do it, and everyone can improve on it. And then just the growth in confidence that creates, I think is just, immeasurable as well. So just as my little 2 cents worth at the end, as someone, you can see how passionate I am about it, but it's just such a fantastic, amazing thing for women for all sorts of reasons. So I hope that was helpful, girls. Let me know, please, if you have questions about any of the specifics, and I'm happy to answer those in the comments as well. All right. Have a great day. Thanks, everyone. Bye.